Alrighty, so now that we're well into the playtest, Paizo has a couple of surveys for us, a little more of the nitty-gritty, a little bit more of the feeding the inner graphic design nerds, and also me. We're here to talk about them right here today. I was gonna make a how to make a Halloween playtest video here in this spot. Instead, I'm gonna bring this information forward to you guys because it's super important. It's coloring the RPG we're playing the way we want it to be colored. Our voices are heard. And I'm gonna preface everything by saying that the link to the blog is in the description where you can find survey links. Get to it. But before you do that, real quick, this episode of your Pathfinder playtest coverage was brought to you in part by Dragon9 Hyde, the Gentle Reapers player, over at the Package, our Pathfinder intrigue game, which has a lot of episodes recorded back, by the way. I just haven't got to editing them yet because I've been prioritizing some other stuff so we could have a special Halloween one-shot, which just comes out tomorrow, by the way. Be there. Now, blog. So the long and short of it is Paizo is launching a pair of surveys to get feedback from us, the players, both in terms of the graphic design side of what the playtest looks like, and again, in terms of magic. The first survey, where they talk about presentation, looks at their use of symbols, color, and language to convey the rules of the game to us. As you probably noticed, the format in the Pathfinder playtest rulebook is a lot different than Pathfinder 1st edition, but it is not what the final format will look like, which is good. Frankly, there's a couple things I really didn't like about the playtest rulebook format, and I'm going to put them out here right now so we can all talk about them. First things first, the way spells are organized, in my opinion, makes it really hard, at least right out, to determine who is casting what. Yes, at the beginning we have a list of the primal, arcane, divine, and occult spell lists, but when we get actually to a page in the spellbook, we have no idea. We know what Fireball does, but who gets it? Now, if we'd read back before, of course, we'd know that yes, now our druid gets that, and it'll be super fun, but a casual glance tells us nothing. I, for one, like the format of 4 different spell lists. Of course, we can expect other spells to be stapled into these spell lists as time moves on, of course. But I think we need some kind of indication as to what is on whose spell list. That doesn't necessarily have to be a whole block saying that this spell is like Druid 4th, Wizard 1st, Cleric 9th, Fighter 10th, whatever. But something somewhere in the book to indicate that this spell is on the primal list. This spell is on the occult list, etc., etc. It would go a long way. Maybe something along the lines of like color coding introduced in class. Just a little circle, right? Green for primal, black for occult, white for divine, red for arcane, something like that. And just put a little circle next to the name of the spell with the corresponding color, or multiple circles with colors, so we can quickly tell who gets what. Secondly, I don't like that powers have been thrown in with the spells in the formatting of this book, because when I'm building, especially for like min-maxing for fun and profit, when I'm building something from 1 to 20, it's a lot of, seemingly to me, unnecessary flipping back and forth. I know that the might domain eventually gets enduring might, and that's super sweet, but I don't know what it does immediately, to say nothing of the monk's key powers, the powers a paladin gets, etc. Honestly, I think those should be put somewhere in the class section immediately after said something is mentioned. I like how the table for the fighter advancement has been considerably squinched down, and due to the nature of the proficiency system, truly now that's possible. But like, for example, the feat and level table, or the big panned out list of fighter feats, literally as I'm reading about fighter feats at level, seems to just take up space on the sides. There's more than enough space to clearly write out what my bloodline powers do, things of that nature. Now, on the subject of spells, that's the second point today. Paizo wants to know specifically what we think about how magic is working in the playtest. Quote, "One of our primary goals in designing the playtest rules was to ensure that spells and magic items are still an integral part of the game, but also to make sure characters who don't rely heavily on such abilities aren't overshadowed. We did this in a variety of ways, but there are some places where it seems clear that restrictions may have taken away a bit too much from Magic and its role in the game. Specifically, Paizo's looking at the number of spells per day a given class or archetype gets, the chance that spell will succeed or that foes will fail saving throws, and the power of individual spells. I can speak to all three of these. First and foremost, it seems to me that the number of spells per day is about right. A caster who might want to specialize in a thing, say like the blaster who's enamored with Fireball, can prep that Fireball as much as they want all over the place, and the higher up it's prepped, the better. That said though, I think it'd be kind of interesting to see, once a spell is unlocked, once, say for example, you get access to Fireball, something along the lines of an undercast. I'm not saying here's Fireball at level 1, but once you reach the appropriate level, if you want to burn a level 1 spell slot, to have a Fireball that does considerably less d6 seems fine to me. I think a lot of people would like that. As far as the power of spells go, as far as the individual chance of success on spells go, I think those are, again, mostly correct. But one thing I will say that I think we're missing is the coup de grace mechanic. Now, classically speaking, in Pathfinder 1st Edition, that was the meta. We had what's called save or suck spells, as opposed to the save or die of like Finger of Death. I will cast Hold Person. If you fail to save, the fighter standing next to you will automatically score a critical hit as a full round action, or standard if you have Throat Slicer, and cause a save or die, if they didn't just kill you outright from the automatic confirmed critical. That no longer exists in the playtest, and I think when we move over into Pathfinder 2nd Edition in full, that's something that needs to come back. I don't just say that because Paralyze is still a spell, because it's nowhere near as strong as it used to be. It takes a lot of resources to paralyze, lock somebody, much more than before, and granted, slowing a target on a success is still really good, but there's not as much we can do about that. Since things are going to break out of Hold Person effects, like Paralyze, so much easier than they were before, I think it's only reasonable that the coup de grace mechanic come back. Also, even with the change to the dying mechanic, things are getting up and down just a lot. I'm working on this as a GM. I haven't done it a whole lot in the past, but I want to fix that in the future, especially with the nature of this playtest. Used to be, in my games, if the bad guy hit 0 hit points, he was dead. No dying, no negative hit points, nothing. In the playtest, when it would go to dying 1, move in initiative, and then start having to make saves, odds are it's going to get right back up again. And yes, the fighter can spend a couple of actions attacking, possibly missing and wasting the actions to increase a dying value. But I don't think it's any kind of not reasonable to have like 4-3 actions, slit a dude's throat, he dies, maybe take some kind of class feat somewhere for 2. Just my 2 cents though. Anyway, as a final note, next week, update 1.6 to the playtest is coming out, which is going to add or adjust every class in this game. And of course, as you know, when that comes out, we're going to cover it right here. But that's all we have for today. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. And hey, be sure to like and subscribe for more of that Pathfinder 1st, 2nd, and CRPG. Found some sweet Kingmaker mods, by the way, content. The next episode of your Pathfinder playtest coverage, where we optimize us a wild druid, drops this Saturday.